Hello BookTube, who's up for some tag necromancy? Today I'm going to be doing the 50 questions you've never been asked tag. I first saw this tag in April of 2018 on Steve Donahue's channel, and I will be linking his original video down below. Question number 1. What's your favorite candle scent? Apple spice. Question number 2. Which female celebrity do you wish were your sister? None. Number 3. Which male celebrity do you wish were your brother? None. Question number 4. How old do you think you'll be when you marry? Never. I have no intention of ever being married. Question number 5. Do you know someone who is a hoarder? I think I know somebody quite well who's a hoarder. Number 6. Can you do the splits? Do I look like I can do the splits? About the only thing I can do is eat a banana split. Question number 7. How old were you when you learned to ride a bike? Sadly, I've never learned how to ride a bike. Question number 8. How many oceans have you swum in? I've waded into the Gulf of Mexico and promptly was oiled. So my family, we went to go visit some relatives. The chunk of my mom's family comes from Galveston County, and at the time, a larger proportion still lived there. And we went to the beach, and me and my brother waded into the Gulf of Mexico, and apparently there had to have been some kind of oil spill or something, but I remember we were just coated in oil, and it was a pain in the rear end to get us clean. I have not been to the beach since. Question number 9. How many countries have you visited? None. I wish I could travel internationally, but never got around to it. Question number 10. Is anyone in your family in the Army? I had a cousin who was in the Army, and I think he got out a few years ago. I think I have 1 or 2 second cousins who are currently in the military. Maybe more. And then I had an uncle and several uncles by marriage who were in the Army, I think. Question number 11 and question number 12. What would you name your daughter if you had one, and what would you name your son if you had one? Minerva and Apollo, or Artemis and Apollo, if they were twins. And for a more mainstream naming, Elizabeth and Evelyn for a girl, and Percy and Ulrich for a boy. Although I never intend to have children. Much like I never intend to get married. I don't think I would be a particularly good parent. 13. What's the worst grade you got on a test? I want to say I failed some math tests at some point or another. Once I hit high school, me and math just did not get along. Although that could be because it took me years to figure out that when the teacher was going over the previous night's homework in class, before she asked to have them sent up to her, that you were supposed to actually correct the homework. 14. What was your favorite TV show as a kid? He-Man and She-Ra. Just absolutely loved the 1980s version of it. And I still enjoy some of the episodes today, particularly the Crystal Castle episode of She-Ra. 15. What did you dress up as for Halloween when you were 8? How do I remember? I don't remember. It's been nearly 30 years. Of course I can't remember what I dressed up as. Heck, I can't even remember we went trick-or-treating. 16. Have you read any Harry Potter Hunger Games, Twilight. So I currently have the first two books in the Harry Potter series, Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. And about 10 years ago, I had Goblet of Fire. I've read the first chapter of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone up to Vernon going to work before they find baby Harry. And I thought it was just trash. Just complete and total trash. And I read some of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and tried to read it from the beginning, and I bailed when Arthur was yelling at the twins for turning Dudley's tongue into like several feet longer than it should be. Yeah. I've never read The Hunger Games, and I had Twilight for a little bit. Read into the first chapter, liked Bella's voice, but not enough to want to actually read the book any further. And then I traded it in to Golden's Book Exchange for store credit. 17. Would you rather have an American or British accent? Why not an Australian or New Zealand or Canadian accent? 18. Did your mother go to university? No. 19. Are your grandparents still married? They were married up to the day they died, which was about 14 years ago. They died in 2006, and they were married up to then and died a few hours apart. 20. Have you ever taken karate lessons? No, wish I had. 21. Do you know who Kermit the Frog is? What kind of question is that? Who the hell does not know who Kermit the Frog is? Come on! Huh? Of course I knew who Kermit the Frog is. And 22. What was the first amusement park you visited? When I say it's Kittyland, it's a small joke of an amusement park located on the western side of Waco. It's a water park with a few other amenities. It was trash then, it's trash now. 23. Which language would you like to be fluent in? Hittite. 24. Do you spell gray with an A or an E? Whatever the spell check says it is. 25. Is your father bald? I think he was balding, but he died a few years ago, and I hadn't seen him for several years before then, so I can't honestly remember. 26. Do you know triplets? No. 27. Do you prefer Titanic or The Notebook? I've never seen The Notebook, and Titanic was crap. 28. Have you ever had Indian food? Some TV dinners inspired by Indian food, and I might have had Indian food at a restaurant one time, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. 29. What's the name of your favorite restaurant? Magnolia in Austin. Not Magnolia Table. Not it's Magnolia. It's an American style cafe in Austin. Fantastic food. Also, Marcello's Pizza in San Francisco, assuming it's still there. But certainly not Magnolia Table in Waco. I've never been there, but I could go off on a rant about how while much of the world might be changing its name to Sally Rooney, Waco will be changing its name to Magnolia. Or Gainesville. I don't know which. Anyway, although, the Gaineses have done a lot for Waco. particularly, I mean, better known now for good things than for some bad things that Waco has been known for in the past. Anyway, moving on. 30. Have you ever been to Nando's? I have no idea what Nando's is. 31. Do you belong to any warehouse stores? No. Although I've been to a Sam's Club a few times. My dad and I think a babysitter were members. 32. What would your parents have named you if you'd been the opposite gender? I have no idea. I've never asked. 33. What's your nickname? My full name is James Allen Holder. So I was called Alien when I was a kid. 34. Who's your favorite person in the world? Steve Donahue. 35. Would you rather live in the country or the city? I would much prefer living in the city. There's a hell of a lot more to do. And while I do have some occasional yearnings for country living, having a farm and growing my own food and cooking my own food and that whole sort of foodie thing, I much prefer cities. I mean, there are libraries, there's museums and art, and just the culture of cities are so much more appealing to me than even the most civic-minded small towns or villages. 36. Can you whistle? No. 37. Do you sleep with a nightlight? No. I sleep in total darkness. Excuse me. 38. Do you eat breakfast every morning? Yes. I make a mean pancake. And omelets. Ooh, I can make some good omelets. Okay. 39. Do you take any pills or daily medication? No. 40. What medical condition do you have? I have gout. I was diagnosed about 4 years ago, which was about the last time I actually had an attack of gout. But it was a few months after I was diagnosed. But I had it intermittently for a few years, but it hasn't really bothered me in a few years. So, 41. How many times have you been to the hospital? For myself, none. To visit other people, about 10 times. 42. Have you ever seen Finding Nemo? Yes, I have 4 nieces and nephews. Well, 2 nieces, 2 nephews, the 4 children of the apocalypse. And for a brief time, they were huge on Finding Nemo. And I didn't particularly care for it. 43. Where do you buy your jeans? I don't buy jeans. I wear slacks. 44. What's the last compliment you got? I think somebody complimented me on my baked chicken. 45. Do you usually remember your dreams in the morning? Yes. I don't necessarily dream every day, but when I do remember them. But it's not like I dream every day. It's here and there. It's a very rare thing. But when I do remember them, I do remember them quite vividly for at least a few days, particularly if they were noteworthy. 46. What flavor tea do you enjoy? I would say your standard tea, although I do heavily sugar it, which probably is a bad thing. 47. How many pairs of shoes do you currently own? 1. I pretty much buy a pair of shoes and then I wear it out to the point of it basically falling apart, then I begrudgingly have to buy a new pair of shoes. But I don't particularly care for buying shoes. Um, 48. What religion would you raise your children to practice? Um, None. While, I mean, I myself am an atheist, I would not basically, I would let the children figure that out on their own. That I think is something that children should be able to be trusted with figuring it out on their own. Now, I know when I watched Steve Donahue's answer for this, and I guess some people have been called out for saying they weren't going to raise their children with a religion and then being forced to walk that back, which, I mean, I wasn't raised with a religion or an active religion. So it's just one of those things where if a child feels a calling to faith or, yeah, then okay, if they find it on their own. That is something that they should come to on their own rather than something that I, as their parent, force upon them. I mean, yeah, there's a bit of increasing familial bonds and whatever, but it's really something that the kids should figure out on their own. Although, again, I never intend to have kids, so yeah. 49. How old were you when you found out Santa wasn't real? About the time I found out that Christmas came in February. No, when I was a kid, my mom went the extra mile to convince us that there was a Santa Claus. Basically, at her work, one of her supervisors could pull off looking like Santa. So what he did was he organized a lot of his like his employees who had children. They would get together, and he would come at some point during, I think, the late summer or early fall as Santa, and then we'd all get on his knee and tell him what we wanted for Christmas, and then the parents would give him the money to go and buy it, or to, I think, hold it, and then Christmas Eve he would drive by and deliver the presents. And I remember one year me and my brother were staying up late to actually see him come, and my mom sent us into the bedroom, our bedroom, and we had the door open, and so there was a knock at the door and a ho ho ho, and Santa Claus delivered presents. But gradually we found out that it was just her boss being kind, and also that that money became tighter, and so when we got presents, it would be when income tax came that we might get something for Christmas, not much, but I mean the big presents always came in February because that's when there was extra money. As for when exactly I knew for sure, I want to say it was probably like 7 or 8, maybe 9-ish. Number 50. Why do you have a blog? I used to have a blog. It's still there. My brother wanted to blog, and he wanted, I guess it was like some kind of brotherly bonding. He did mostly like wrestling, and because my brother is a huge professional wrestling fan, and like movies and stuff. And then I kind of did like science fiction and fantasy and manga and a few other things, and then eventually my brother kind of soured on it or got tired of it, so I pretty much continued to blog for a few years, and then I kind of haven't really revisited it in like 2 years, or actually even more than 2 years. I just kind of, I got tired of blogging, and then I've come to YouTube, so yeah. Anyway, I don't know if I actually would like to go back to the blog. I don't know. Probably not. Because even at the time, I was kind of moving away from what I initially set out to do, and I don't know if that kind of would have affected how many people actually read it, even though not very many people ever actually read it. So, yeah. Anyway, but that was the 50 questions you've never been asked tag. If you are relatively new to BookTube and you haven't seen this tag before, do consider yourselves tagged. Particularly like, say, Brian of Bookish, Sean D. Standfast, Alan Bresswell. I don't think Mark Richardson did this tag. Anybody else? And again, if you would like me to tag you in these videos, please do let me know in the comments down below, and I will make a note to specifically tag you. But regardless, do consider yourselves tagged. Thank you, BookTube. Stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow with weekly reads.